right, guys, today we're gonna have the be-all end-all of drywall repair. And there's so many things to think about when you're trying to fill anything from just a little nail hole to a major oops. So let's talk about the small ones first. You know, we've seen a lot of different things that we can spackle, for instance, these little holes where maybe a drywall hanger used to be. And of course, there's a lot of different things you can patch it with, but this is spackle, which typically means it's for small holes. And then the cool thing with this is once it dries, it's white, so you know when it's dry. Little sandpaper after it dries, and it's good. And there's two new ones that have come out here recently, made by 3M, that are kind of interesting. I just picked these up at the hardware store today. And let me show you, this one is for small holes up to 3 inches, and this one does 3 to 5 inches. This is a fiber reinforced. This stuff is almost like just dried toothpaste when it goes on. But this stuff here, in theory, I can go in here and go over the top of that, and that is all I would need to do. Once that dries in a few minutes, I think we can get a second shot on that. Now, when you're dealing with bigger holes, this is where, when you kind of have those big oops, we got to think about what to do. So like this used to be an electrical outlet. That's a little bit bigger project, but you know, the most common is that doorknob. And let's take a look and see here. I'm going to put a hole in this, then I'm going to show you how to patch it. Clean up the rest of the paper. Now there's two different schools of thought of how to do this. And one of them is you run down and get this patch right here. Now I kind of like this for this type of a hole right here, for instance, because what we can do is peel this back, and where it could get hit again, this isn't a bad spot. We can come over here like this and do that. I'll get the mud out and show you how we deal with that in a second. Now the other side over here is what I can do a California patch with. So now what I'm gonna do is, this is the back of the material that we're cutting on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come over here and break this off, and then I'm going to carefully peel this paper off of this. So that way I have this piece here, and I'm gonna do this all the way around it. All right, guys, now there's two things to think about here when you're doing this, and this is kind of the major difference. This patch here, this material on the paper is much thinner than this metal in this. So it does take a little bit less mud to do this. But really, this metal, if it's gonna keep getting impacted, like you haven't put a doorstop down there, that might be a little bit better on spreading that load. And I'll show you how this goes here. So first one we're gonna do is get into the sheetrock mud. You can use the joint compound, the taping compound. There's a lot of different versions of it. This is kind of the topping, which makes it a little smoother. Now the secret is we want to have mud under this entire bit of tape right here. So this needs to go here. And if it doesn't squeeze out of the outside, then I didn't put enough in. The more time you take right now, the less sanding you have to do later. So this is a good little thing. Now this is a little bit different because you're already self-adhesive and you have the mesh, so it's going to take a little bit more mud. So what I do is I come in like this and just plop a big old piece on there. Then I go to my next size knife right here. And so now that I've got it up here, we're gonna start to really get this up here on the wall. Really trying to not build it up too much, because here's one tip: the more you build that up, the wider you gotta go. So you wanna keep this as thin as possible, otherwise you'll see a hump in that wall, and nobody wants to see that. It'll cause a shadow in the daylight. It's never good. So we wanna just put as much as we need to cover it up. All right, guys, we're gonna get a nice little pull across here to see if we can get this as smooth as possible. Do one more across the top. This might seem super daunting. You know, there's artisans that do this for a living, but here's the thing. The more you do it, the better you get at it. This is something you can tackle. Just take the time, and it's gonna turn out great, and you'll have a beautiful result in the end.
You are watching Around the House Northwest.